Well, here we are for a very special episode of the Look Back Diaries. Looking back at a very special episode of the Elizabeth Diaries. I know, it's a big one. You can support me and the show by checking out Patreon, get the full extended version of this episode and other bonus content. My name is Ashley Clements.
Hi, I'm Daniel Vincent Gordh, and this is the Look Back Diaries. And it's a really kind of an interesting episode.
Are you making fun of me?
Yep.
Well, thanks for joining us again for this very special episode. I didn't mean to make it sound like it was an after-school special. It's just it's significant. I know that people have feelings about it.
I have feelings about it myself.
There's a big jump in viewership on this episode. It clearly gets a lot of rewatch.
What is it? What's it at? What are the numbers?
Let's take a look. So, you can see that episode 96, which is me with no guest, all by myself, less than 1 million views. 97, 1 million views. 98, 1.6. So
it's almost like people wanted to see that kiss.
We did get a lot of attention for that kiss. There were some gifs.
I occasionally, this always makes me smile, just randomly getting like a Google News notification, and it will be like hottest kisses or something like that, and I'll be like, oh, that's nice. Or sometimes it'll also come up in like Pride and Prejudice adaptations, but often it's about the kiss, and that doesn't bother me. It is kind of a unique thing to have like a hot moment captured in a show, because it's like most of your acting jobs don't require that. I mean, a decent amount do, but this was
a decent amount do. It's a very different,
not usually that have that much anticipation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of anticipation. I mean, other shows sometimes build it up, for years, but it's a lot of anticipation. Yeah. But it's also a show where you could have argued that it never happened on camera. So, like, we could have kind of denied it and maybe have been justified in doing so. And we also, as we've discussed, throughout this series, there is this additional level of intimacy felt with a vlogger. And then we see this very intimate moment. And
yeah, it's not captured like in, I think that is, if I may be candid, one thing that's kind of hot about it is that it's not captured in a like traditional,
there's this voyeuristic
coverage. Yeah, it's like
to it.
We accidentally witnessed these two first kiss and all of the we let it play out for a while, and so it feels verisimilitude. We've talked about this word, but it has this like increased feeling of realness because of that.
Yeah, and also like if we want to talk about acting chemistry, like we acted the shit out of this.
We worked on our scenes.
We did. We rehearsed. This is the only time that I think we did this, but there was always a rehearsal for like one day, which was kind of really like a light staging that we would do before, just a couple days before every shoot. And it was also anyone but me, it was their first opportunity to point anything out if they had any questions or issues with the script, if something was sticking in their mouth or didn't feel right. And also just by kind of doing it, we would sometimes realize like, oh, we kind of don't need that moment, or we need to explain this, whatever. So there would be some script changes from that as well. But we would mostly kind of just like lightly block things out and then run them a couple times. And once we kind of identified what needed to change, then we would move on to the next episode. But you and I specifically got together to block out the kiss. This is long before anyone was talking about intimacy coordinators and things like that. But we wanted to make sure that, because it is a weird angle to shoot it from, we wanted to make sure that we did something that would look good on camera from that angle as well. And just so I remember us like blocking out. It's so funny because I remember you came over to my place. I remember that we didn't sit on the couch because when we actually did the show, we did not get to sit on like soft things that we would
Right, it
sink
was too
into. So we
low.
sat on my coffee table so that we would have this sort of like, because I can picture that like we were sitting on the coffee table and we just kind of blocked it out in a very like non sexual, no chemistry kind of way. Like, we're like, and my hands will go here and then our mouths will touch and that will be that. We weren't
Well,
like
and
making out in my apartment off camera. Like, it was very technical.
I think we also probably came from a very similar like background in theater where it's like you kiss. Acting requires kissing.
Absolutely.
And like,
Absolutely.
it was just it was like so drilled in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you just have to kiss people you just met
Yep.
yesterday in acting. And so there's like a soldier mentality where you're like, "Hey, so we're going to be doing the kissing. Are we okay to do the kiss yet?" And
Yeah.
you have a amount of like checking in that you're used to doing as part of that, but you're like a good soldier.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
Like,
don't know.
we're cool with this? You're okay? Can I, this is fine? Yeah.
You're good with the I do anything. Yeah, and, you have to be like, "Yeah, you can slap me if you want or whatever. I don't be gentle with me, whatever it is. You communicate your boundaries, but by ourselves in Ashley's apartment."
But you and I at this point were friends. We had spent a lot of time together. We felt very comfortable. And it's so funny, in terms of, oh, even the idea that you might have better chemistry with someone because they were straight. Like, in some ways, we're allowed to have this chemistry because no part of the actor had to be worried that anything would be misinterpreted
Yeah.
and taken off out of context. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
we've all had that scene partner who like
It's like,
suddenly started
"You up?"
kissing. You're like, whoa, there shouldn't be any tongue involved in this.
They're like, "I'm being present in the moment." And
Yeah,
you're like,
I just felt it. It's like, okay, you suck is actually what's happening, and I hate you. And so, anyways, we had none of that. There was a safety in it as much as like we knew that that was Lizzie and Darcy and not us.
one thing that was striking me this time watching bits of the show leading up to just talking to you about it, was I was like, if you made this show now, you would almost certainly use a teleprompter.
They did for other Pemberley shows.
Right, and I think yeah, eventually they did use them, and it makes sense actually to do one, but it
Yeah, no,
also
it's an insane amount of content.
like because we were shooting, I mean, how many episodes actually at once? I forget, 10? No.
8 plus a Q&A.
Right,
So
exactly. So,
typically around 9.
and they were all, pages and pages of dialogue. So it was not that the entire episode was delivered in one, but often our scenes would play out largely in one take a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it was one of those like restrictions that created like creativity or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like where we
But it
ended
was
up,
almost like doing a play, but with very
yes,
little rehearsal.
so we had to go rehearse because ultimately the ask was going to be do a little play a bunch of times tomorrow. But I think to a certain extent it made it a little more real feeling for you or for, I don't know, the experience to not have the words up there
Yeah. No,
for us, you know?
I don't know that I mean, I hadn't had any experience with a teleprompter. It definitely would have been different. It definitely would have created more remove in a way. I don't know. We'll never know because I didn't have one. But I know that
But
they
yeah,
got one for Frankenstein. So,
but yeah, we didn't have a look, when you watch the Lizzie Bennet Diaries again, just remember it was being done without a teleprompter.
well, and it's like every Pemberley show got more stuff that we didn't have. I was always so jealous because Emma was still didn't have a teleprompter, but they had a monitor, which means that people could actually look at their hair and makeup as opposed to just the tiny little monitor that's on a DSLR. So, all the like weird flyaway bits and things that I hate on the show.
It's so funny because I noticed those things of myself but no one else.
Yeah, no, I'm sure we all notice them much more about ourselves. There's a piece of lint in my eyebrow in this episode. No one's ever said anything to me about it, and it's all I stare at.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you heard it here first. You're never going to be able to unsee the lint.
Now you're going to see the lint. But Emma Approved also got 2 days for the same amount of content. So they would shoot over a weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and not do like an entire month in one day. They did an entire month in 2 days, which is still a big demand, but it wasn't. So like every show got things that, made it a little easier and they got more budget. And well, so now we've talked a lot about this kiss and the all important lint. Shall we take a look back?
Diaries.
All right, here we go.
Hi, everyone.
It begins.
Oh, hello, you little troll.
Yeah, I don't remember who wrote this episode, but this is a very trolly opening, Kate. Just like,
That must bore you, and I don't want
yeah,
that.
I mean,
Yeah, it's Kate. It's our romance novelist.
in episode, I mean, she understands building tension, clearly, but
Well, and I also don't know if it was a writer's room decision because this echoes what we did with episode 60 and
yeah.
59 and 60. So,
The only thing I wonder about is actually Lizzie's so happy at that moment, it almost shows you this is probably going to go well.
Well, come on. We
know
even if
it's
you don't know the
prejudice.
book, you know tropes, you know things. So
It's episode 98. What, you don't think this is going to go well?
Do you film everything in your life?
I guess they didn't know 100 was the end. We knew, but
Okay, let's talk about this green top.
well,
You said people thought it was something else.
people thought it was a dress, and they would ask me a lot of questions about it because they wanted to cosplay this, but it was a top with a peplum because it was 2013 and that was having a moment. And here we are having our moments. Now, I have spoken on the show about how it took me a very long time to learn that I needed to have my thoughts out to where the audience could see them. I needed to turn my face out. And this is where you can see I'm actually doing that. That I'm looking away so that you can see my face.
This show, obviously, that was a constant challenge. Ashley,
But I was very bad at it.
Just directing when she was direct address, it's obviously one thing. But then when you're directly next to someone, where if you actually look at them, you are full. I mean, I'm pretty full profile here, and so are you.
But our chemist, but you could draw little like lightning bolts between us. I mean, I feel like we could take the sound out of that and still see the electricity. And I'm giving us lots of credit for that because we made that with our talent.
I think a lot of times you could maybe cheat eye contact too, but this scene we couldn't do that or it wouldn't work. So I think we were a little bit more like, you know what? We're going to try to have our thoughts out, but when we are connected, we have to be looking into each other's eyes.
I don't think I did cheat eye contact though. Like, I think I was such a theater actor that I was just like, I must see your eyes.
Yeah, I guess you never really cheated eye contact, but you would sometimes be like, I'm going to look
Yeah,
very
no,
far.
Exactly. It's very side-eye, but I did a lot of the show.
I love this moment. But
yes, this is great.
When
oh no, it's not going to work
like,
out.
You're ready to get broken up with, and I'm very bad at expressing my feelings. And I'm getting rejected again. Just miscommunications abound.
You are also in the seat that's much better lit. Like,
yeah, that was in my contract.
Well, like, it's just funny that if anyone gets the good light, it should be me.
Wow, Ashley, that is man.
Which also, like, there's no cut here, right? So we did all of that in one take leading up to the kissy kiss. And I think, there's maybe 2 or 3 takes of it that we did. Because we had practiced it. But also, I will say this, for the first time ever, we had practiced, like, the mechanics of it. And I honestly, when we ran it in my apartment, I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess this is just gonna be like kind of what it is. And like, I didn't think that there would be this much chemistry, um,
You know what
because
I like about the
we were
kiss?
just, but in the moment, like
Mhm.
you grabbed me and I was like, oh, we're in this. This is
We got
happening.
along so well.
Well, that was yeah, that was what
Because we
needed
were
to happen.
actually doing it. And like, so
I like that the kiss isn't it's just at the point of not being too much. I'm just pumping
yeah,
myself up. That's what I
yeah,
feel. It's
no.
like, you know, if it got too if it went a notch higher, you would have been like, ew.
I would
But
say
I
that
feel like
my tie play borders on maybe a little too much. I mean, the fans loved it, but I do it in this one, and
yeah.
I also do it in the next one where I'm like stroking your tie in a very sexual way.
Yeah, how dare you?
I mean, I knew what I was doing,
I
but
get it.
it's borderline obscene. It's not, I guess.
You know, in a fr- in a frame in a frame this size, um,
Now let me make
it's like as sexual as you could be.
Yes,
You
yeah,
know what I mean?
and also the that weird challenge, right? Like, of how do we show this? How do we get hands up here
I want to be with you.
where they would otherwise not be? I want to
Right.
be with you, and yeah, but we created all of this chemistry.
And that moment, I always wondered, does that work? And I said, you know what? I think it just does. Because
Mm-hmm.
it
And we're
because
gonna
it
turn
doesn't
this off so
always.
we can
Ooh, the eye
make
on
out
the
better.
turn. The moment where I'm moving hair,
Hmm.
like you never know if that's a little too cheesy.
Oh, they
And
love it though.
I think
I mean,
it just pulled it off.
it's the same thing. It's the same thing with like, with the hand placement, with the tie grab. Like these are sort of romance novel things, right? Like it's kind of a fantasy. And at this point, that's exactly what Lizzie and Darcy need to be, right? There's been so much build up to this romance. There's so much tension. There've been so many moments. It's also one of those things where like in most shows, you would not necessarily be this physically close to your scene partner in every scene, but we
Yeah.
were basically shoulder to shoulder all the time. And so there's a lot more moments, and this is also true for Bing and Jane, who also had phenomenal chemistry. There's a lot more moments when it feels like, oh, should these people be kissing? No. Like,
Right,
and
right.
as an actor, like you just have to sort of play the moment of like, you are beautiful. Oh goodness.
That also, yeah, being forced to be so close because of the just confines of the show did kind of like help with that because you're like, well, you're very close to me, and the lines I'm saying to you are right at your face.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
I mean, it was also one of the weird things about the show, right? Because we were constantly being asked to sort of like project more. At this point, the show had settled down a little bit, but also like you're right here, and I could have spoken much more quietly. And it would also, you would rather have this conversation facing each other, right? Looking into each other's eyes.
I mean, I think we were able to create a silhouette element of it. We were a little further apart. We could like, we were I think lit a little more cinematically in this episode. I remember cracking up during this episode
Oh, I'm
too.
sure. Because also, that's the other thing. It's like anytime that you're doing kisses, like there's also inevitably takes where you're laughing because it's also awkward and weird and
And also me and Ashley
are
made it. Our
hilarious.
but it was like we felt like we were like playing with it together and feeling the like discomfort of it together, and that made it funny for us. I just remember it being funny for us because there's outtakes of us being like, "Yeah, oh yeah." This episode like is also very sweet because it's not just like it's like I mean, I guess you already realize kind of how you feel about Darcy.
Yes, I've gone on that journey.
Lizzie's arrived at this place where she like realizes that not only does Darcy love her, but he like will take care of her family.
Yeah.
And like not just her family, but like anyone she loves, he will fiercely protect.
But you remember that Darcy's first proposal, he specifically insults her family.
Right.
Lydia among them, right? And so for him to then show, like, actually, I will put things on the line to protect the people that you love, and you know, like I was wrong about them too. That he has shown
Prejudice.
prejudice.
That he has shown prejudice.
Prejudice. Yeah. It's more important, not that Darcy like be the hero who saves them, because that's just a bit sort of patriarchal, but that he shows in fact that he puts family first and that he values her family.
Yeah, and she learns how it was possible all those people were saying these things about Darcy that whole time.
Right.
Like, oh, okay.
Oh.
I see that there's a heart in there.
And also, obviously, that you still cared, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think we see Lizzie start to have feelings for a while, and then all the Lydia stuff kind of pulls her away, but she doesn't know if Darcy still feels that way about her.
Can I reveal a secret?
That's what we're here to do. I've never seen the Lizzie Bennet Diaries.
I don't know what it is, and I've never met you. My secret is that I always secretly, I wonder if anyone else has this experience. Like, I feel like good. I'm like, yay, Lizzie, you're with Darcy. You know, this is great. But I also feel a little bit like, you guys are moving a little bit fast. Yeah, you know, like you don't have to start your relationship with, I love you, and this is gonna be it. Like, yeah. I am always like, part of me is like, oh, I'm so glad you guys like each other, but still, maybe just.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot when, I mean, you set the bar high, right? You show up and you're like, I'm in love with you. Like, what?
I just flew here.
Like, you don't want to ask her to dinner?
Right. What? Go. I mean, I guess, you know, there's some stuff that they've hung out. They've gone to San Francisco, but still.
Right, but they've never, but not yet at that point. Not.
It's like, who's moving in with each other? Do you want to come to San Francisco? I'm like, I don't. This is brand new.
She does establish it, I think, in episode 100 that she's not moving like into his home. I think she says that she's subletting or something. But
that's my secret reveal. I worry about those kids. You know, I worry about those young kids.
Look, it's true for like almost every rom-com, though. It's very rare that anyone goes at like a normal pace.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a great climax to the rom-com. It's like, I love spending time with you over the course of a few years and getting to know you.
I would like for us to get to know each other more. It's honestly like how I feel at the end of every rom-com. Very rarely. There's like some modern things now where they're like, I guess we should go out. But you came in hot. It's a little awkward after all of that for her to be like, yeah, I kind of have a crush and I'm interested in exploring more. Like, you said it up here, so it's kind of hard to come in anywhere else. Let's take a look at the comments. I'm sure they were very excited about this one. 7 years ago, Rebecca says, doorbell rings again. Lizzie, oh, that'll be the Chinese delivery. Would you like to stay for dinner? Charlotte, outside the door. Would you like to stay forever?
Oh, Charlotte.
Waffles Friends Work says, I don't think anyone ever expected a phrase such as, I thought you were Chinese, to be riddled with such a high degree of sexual tension.
I would agree with that.
Udi Kumra says, does that clarify some things for you? Some. I could use some further illumination on certain points, however. Darcy's the king of smooth, and here we all thought he was socially awkward.
See, the thing you don't know is that the socially awkward in groups are sometimes very smooth one-on-one.
Broken Point Shoe says, I can just see Charlotte slurping noodles with her ear to the door. And Maria Luisa says, as we were saying, to be honest, this is one of the best on-screen kisses I've ever seen from anything ever. Better than a lot of TV shows and movies manage. Thank you.
We love you.
VLF218 says, Lizzie goes in for the kiss. Me gets up and takes a lap around the house. I do remember also at the time, do you remember there were people who were posting live reaction videos?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we could see like the squealing about the kiss,
The
like
squee. I think squee
the
was a term.
squee. Yes,
There
it
was a
was. You're
lot.
so right.
Just a quick retrospective. This is when I became aware of a large variety of terms. Maybe some
Same,
Lydia was creating. I don't know, but when I was like, oh, squee, feels, ship, all of it. Thank you,
same.
thank you for taking us into the new generation.
Well, this is the last time you'll be joining us on the Look Back Diaries. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share about your experience being a part of the Lizzie Bennet Diaries?
I will say the real, the real treasure was the friends we made along the way, or whatever that saying is. But
Yeah,
that's actually true.
that is
Um,
actually, and that's so much been my experience of making the Look Back Diaries.
like going back myself and watching it, I am always surprised by how much I enjoy watching the show. Actually, I'm like, this is good. Like it's like eating popcorn, and I just want to sit there and keep watching it. And I'm always surprised because in certain ways it's not something I would normally have consumed, but I still love watching it. And but yeah, I think for me, when I look back on this show and think back on this show, so much of it is about the relationships with the people, which includes getting to actually do this with the people. Like so many of us are very close in the cast and etc. Still,
And have remained, I mean, 10 years later.
yeah,
Like,
and which is not guaranteed
common.
at all.
Yeah.
And also the fans and the fan made stuff, and those are also the people I include when I think of the people and relationships along the way, because they also made relationships with each other that have lasted. So it
Yeah.
was such a community thing and an experience thing that looking back on it is fun also because I think largely it reminds us not just the story, but of like what that was like at the time, because it won't be recreated.
Yeah. Really once in a lifetime kind of experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Love you guys. I miss you guys. Missing you every 20 episodes.
Thank you for being my Darcy.
Thank you for being my Lizzie. I mean that.
I mean that.
No, I mean that.
No, I mean it.
Okay. Well, we can both agree to disagree.